told Willie he needed to make a stop at supposedly one of Willie's other cousin's house, who Willie had never met, by the name of Greg. And as soon as they bagged into the driveway, that's when a squad officer in the SUV swung around the corner and snatched Willie out the passenger side and put a gun to his back. But of course, legal paperwork, he claims that he got both of them out of the car, but an eyewitness actually saw Willie on the ground with a gun to his back. And the officer claims the reason he had a gun on, he says both of them, but he claims he didn't have any handcuffs handy, but he had his gun. Now, come on, people. I have never heard of a police officer not having any handcuffs, but you just so happen to have your gun. So anyway, I'm going to play the tape of the witnesses who actually saw everything. Now, the guy that's in the tape, him and his sister, the guy has been ran out of town by the police. And the reason I say he has been ran out of town by the police is because when I went back to check on the witnesses and I told them that I had found out the robbery was a scam and everything, the sister said that the brother just came in to work one day and just told her he's moving out of town. That was what she first told me. Now, she is actually denying that they even spoke to me about the robber's skin color or his height. And she's telling me that her brother is running in fear of his life. Now, there is nothing in this tape. When you hear this tape, there is nothing in this tape that will make anybody run for their lives. So that gave me an indication that the police had spoken with them in some kind of way, have scared them to the point, she's scared to continue to be honest. Unfortunately, she didn't know that they were being tape recorded. So this would be her first time ever hearing herself over the internet. So maybe this will prompt her to go back to telling the truth. She was pretty hostile when I talked to her last time. I just called her and I told her that an attorney will be calling her. And I said, I know you spoke with the guy for civil rights, but an attorney will be calling you very soon about this case because it's being appealed. And she was pretty hostile and she denied they ever spoke to me about any of this stuff. But, it's a good thing that I was smart enough to tape record it. And I also told them that I was a student going to school to be a journalist. And in order to get a scholarship, I'll need facts about about this particular story. So this is the reason I was able to get the evidence I need and secretly tape record them, because I knew that would be the only way that I could, be able to get the evidence. Unfortunately, a lot of people are probably thinking like, okay, so why didn't the attorney do anything? Well, the attorney was hired last January of 2013. The attorney went to see Willie when he was first hired. He didn't tell Willie about any of the evidence. And the second time he went to see Willie was actually last month for the second time. So literally he went to see Willie twice in 1 year. Now, that gave me an indication that he was working along with the police. Not to mention that when this case went to trial, he didn't subpoena anybody. And when, me and the mom and, the family would contact him regarding the case, he would put me on hold for 20 and 25 minutes and hoping that I'll hang up the phone. And once when I went to see him, he was yelling and screaming to the top of his lungs at me for no reason. So, I don't know what his reason for doing this. Maybe he could have been paid. Maybe he could have been promised something regarding his career. I don't know his reason for doing what he did, but I do know that his behavior gave me an indication that he was working along with the cops. They also falsified evidence in court. their own evidence of discovery, they switched because out of one of these places that was robbed, the guy's physique didn't fit Willie's. So they played a whole different tape of a different man wearing a different shirt in court. And unfortunately, I have my suspicions that the judge is in on this scam to help protect the police officers. And the reason I say this is because when this went to trial, it had been rescheduled 8 times, by the way. They took this case to trial out of the blue. And I asked the judge, I told the judge, so to say, that this would not be a fair trial because there's nobody subpoenaed on Willie's behalf. But to our surprise, the attorney started cross-examining the witnesses out of absolutely nowhere. And he did a pretty good job of it. And the reason I think he may have did that, people, is because he was being recorded by the court reporter. And he didn't want to make it seem like he wasn't doing his job for when the case is appealed. Now, the gun that was supposedly used in the robbery has no fingerprints. Now, how convenient was that? Not to mention, he caught the police in a lie. He pretty much caught everybody in the stand in a lie that was there as a witness for the police. And one of the officers wrote a report stating it was some guy named Big T. And he tried to deny it, but the attorney said, well, I have the report right here. And not to mention that Albert had mentioned to one of the people in jail that him and a guy named Big T went on some robbery spree. Now, this guy was not even in the court. Yes, he wasn't even in the courtroom when the attorney brought this out. As a matter of fact, the judge made the jury leave the courtroom when they brought the guy in to see what the guy had to say. And once he seen that the guy had told, what Albert told him about him and the guy named Big T, was on a robbery spree, he actually dismissed the guy and then brought the jury back in. And what made me get suspicious of the judge is because on the second day, because the trial went on for 2 days, this is 4 counts of robbery now. He told the jury he asked one of the jurors, he says, don't one of y'all got to go pick up your child or your grandchild? And the lady raised her hand. So he says, I'm going to give y'all 15 minutes to go back and deliberate. And if you all hadn't reached a verdict in 15 minutes, then we're going to carry this over to tomorrow. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I have never heard of a jury reaching a verdict in 15 minutes on 4 counts. That's a little crazy. And then the next day when they reached a verdict, they were back there for like 40 or 45 minutes. And actually one of the jurors came out shaking her head, and she was looking at me. She was shaking her head as if she didn't agree with what was about to happen. So when I spoke to Willie, I asked him, did he notice that one of the jurors was shaking her head like she didn't agree with what was about to happen? And he said that he noticed that, and he asked me, was I referring to the little short lady? And I said yes, and he says yes, because she looked at me and was shaking her head. They only had one juror read the verdict. It was not passed around to everyone. The attorney didn't ask for all the jurors to read, their verdict individually or nothing. Not to mention, I told you that they played a whole different tape of a guy wearing a different shirt and everything in court. So I really wasn't surprised with the turnout. But the case is now actually being appealed. There's several officers involved. There's Detective Snub. I think the other guy's name is Forsyth. Maybe I'm pronouncing his name wrong. There's a Gibson that wrote the report. There's a Officer Myers that, came to the house on 26. There's so many officers actually involved in this whole scheme, and we have so much paperwork. The police switched Albert from parole to probation and gave him a fake AIS number and everything. They took him off of probation. After they switched him to probation, they took him off, gave him a fake AIS number and